Hi, and welcome to Leader Feeder, where we share tips and strategies for frontline leaders in manufacturing. I'm sitting down with Kirk Langford. He's our general manager. Hi, Kirk.
Hi, Suze. How are you?
Yeah, super duper. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
So our topic today on Leader Feeder for our frontline leaders is we're talking about mentoring and coaching, which is great, especially for people who want to, be a coach or who need to be mentored.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So can you start us off with what we mean about mentoring and coaching?
Yeah, sure. I would say, so first thing I'm going to say is that you could open the dictionary and find very specific definitions of mentoring versus coaching. And you'll find, different organizations that have a mentoring program and others that have a coaching program. And so I think they get very, they are used interchangeably all the time. And I think that's okay. Ultimately, I don't think it's so much about having this very clear definition of which. But if I needed to give kind of a broad definition, I suppose I would say mentoring would often be like the employee seeking out advice. So them going to another employee on the team, maybe a leader, but maybe not, maybe just someone else they work with. Someone who they trust or look up to or respect, and going to them to ask questions, to ask for advice, to ask for guidance. So big thing there, it's more informal, and you could argue that it tends to be more driven by the employee seeking that guidance. Coaching, on the other hand, tends to be more formalized, like a more formalized advice or guidance, and typically identified or initiated by the leader. So I recognize that someone on my team needs some help. I need to give them feedback and help them with their performance, or there's a behavior issue I'm dealing with. Yes. They might get coaching for that. And that tends to be, again, coming sort of top down. I've identified that they need it. I'm going to help them walk through it. Again, at the end of the day, what's important is not these very rigid definitions, but more that there are two ways that employees kind of learn, grow, and get guidance and advice.
So I can't imagine that there's much of a downside to either mentoring or coaching, right?
No, at the end of the day, they're both about having opportunities for feedback, for guidance, sharing wisdom, and all of those things being available on a team. You know what I mean?
You could have a bad coach, though.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I suppose you could have a bad mentor too,
sure,
right?
You could.
But I don't think you'd probably stick around for very long if you weren't getting any,
certainly
benefits.
As long as you identify that they're not a good coach or a good mentor, right? You might work with them and not realize that maybe the advice they're giving you isn't great. And so it's just a matter of, can you identify, this isn't very helpful, or this isn't getting me ahead, or this isn't solving the problems that I originally, reached out to somebody for. But certainly you could, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about some of the benefits then of mentoring, because I'm sure there's only So mentoring, again, is when I would come to say you, right, to mentor me on something.
Yeah, asking for my help or my advice on something. You're sort of creating a relationship where you look up, maybe not look up to me, but sort of hey, you know a lot about this. Could you kind of help me, train me, teach me?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the benefits that could come out of a mentor-mentoree relationship?
Yeah. Well, I would say one of the first things is that if you have someone on your team that feels comfortable asking someone else for help, and it's almost always going to be, not always, but almost always going to be a newer employee asking a more veteran or more experienced employee, I think that's a sign of psychological safety, right? It's a sign of you have this dynamic on your team where someone feels comfortable going to someone else and going, hey, could you show me the ropes on this? Could you help me out on this? And I think ultimately that is just a good thing. So that's the first part. Yeah. I think it means that if someone's asking for help or advice, it means that they're somewhat open to feedback. I don't necessarily mean that you can give them feedback and they're just going to go, yeah, I am terrible at that. You're right. Thanks. I'm not saying that they're going to be because they're going
to be receptive to feedback.
Receptive. Because even when we're open to feedback, it can still be hard to get negative feedback, and it can still be hard to get corrective or constructive feedback. But what I think it means is that they're saying, you know what, I'm willing to have someone help me learn something, and that means I'm probably going to make some mistakes and in order to learn the ropes. So I think it means that. Another thing I think it does is it provides opportunities for the teammates to connect and strengthen their relationships. So it's not just sort of leader to teammate, leader to teammate, leader to teammate. It's actually teammate to teammate. We're helping each other, we're guiding each other, we're teaching each other. And so instead of the strength of the team and the culture of the team solely relying on the leader, it's actually relying on the relationship between the teammates, because I'm now going to maybe another teammate to ask them for help, for guidance, for advice, again in an informal way. But I think that's a really good sign, because then it's not always up to the leader to be the one that sort of teaches or guides or whatever.
Interesting. So you're saying that potentially three team members on a team could have the same mentor, and then
Sure, depends on what it's
the
for.
mentor, then instead of going to the mentor, they're going to each other now?
Well, instead of
what you
going to like
mean?
the leader, right? So if I'm the leader on the team and I have a team of 5 employees, imagine that, right? If every time they needed help, guidance, advice, they all came to me, they're not necessarily strengthening their relationships with each other as much, because it's always like I'm the one kind of in the middle. I'm that
Right.
middle person, right? And I'm always the one that's kind of helping them, fixing their problems or whatever. Whereas if they go to each other, they're strengthening their own relationship.
Okay,
and it
interesting.
makes me as the leader be able to take a little bit of a step back, because the team is a bit more empowered and a bit more self-sufficient.
Okay,
And as a
so-
leader, that's what you want, right? You
Right.
don't want a team that relies on you for everything. You want a team where when you step back, they can solve some of their own problems. They can answer some of their own questions to a degree. So that's a good sign. And like the other thing related to that is that allowing team members to help one another, I mean, it makes them feel good. It's empowering, right? Because you might feel, if you've been on a team for years where it was like, oh, every time you have a question or you have to make a decision, oh, go to the boss, go to the boss.
Right.
They're the ones that have to make that call. It's not very empowering to a team member that might go, yeah, I might not be the boss, but I mean, I can give advice. I can help solve problems. I've been doing this for a long time. I have suggestions, right? So if they can help each other, it's a really empowering feeling. And it's also a sign of like, hey, if you have someone, you're not a leader, you're not the boss, but someone comes up to you and asks you for advice or guidance, I think that's a really good feeling for you, because you've
Absolutely.
I've clearly set a good example, or I've done something where someone looks up to me in some degree, at least enough to want to ask me for my advice. And so I think it's a really good relationship builder on the team.
That's a really good point, because what that made me think of was initially, and like you said, when you have a problem or you have something, you go to the leader.
Right.
Initially, when we started talking about mentoring, I'm assuming that the mentor is a step above you.
Yeah,
not
not
that thinking
necessarily.
like, that you could have a mentor of someone else on the team who's
Sure.
really good at doing that one thing. And if
Yeah.
you're trying to get better, you can just ask them. So
Exactly.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Immediately, I thought mentoring as the next level
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
as the boss, right? You're
Yeah,
going
not
to
really.
a boss, but it doesn't
Not
always have
necessarily.
to be that.
And keep in mind too, like
great.
mentoring, and same with coaching, like mentoring and coaching can be on like soft skills, right? How to handle conflict, how to communicate better, how to solve a problem, whatever. But it can also be like technical skills too, right? So something about how to use a certain machine or a certain piece of equipment. That's also like a mentoring relationship. Like, hey, I've taken the course on how to use this machine, but it's still kind of not making sense. You used to use it before they moved you off the station. Any chance you could help me out a bit?
Right.
That's a mentoring relationship. But so is like, hey, I want to learn how to solve some problems. I want to learn how to be a bit more outspoken in the workplace, a bit more assertive. I notice you're really good at that. Any chance you could like give me some tips? That's also mentoring. So
Cool.
both
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go over to coaching. What are some
Yeah.
benefits that'll come
Yeah.
from a coaching relationship?
So generally, I would say in coaching, you're identifying and kind of working on and improving a specific behavior. So you should see, I think, if you're doing coaching effectively, I think you should see a specific behavior improve. Mentoring might
Right.
not be quite as targeted. It might be more just like, I'm going to show you the ropes. I'm going to help you out. I'm just going to give you advice here and there. Whereas coaching is more like we identify a thing you want to or need to get better at, and we work on it. So it's a bit more specific. One of the benefits is that the leader, most of the time the leader, because it's not always, but usually, is investing time to work with the employee, right? So most people like their leader investing time and energy into them, because that's what the leader partially is there for, is to help develop the team. And if you are on a team where the leader, maybe you're really self-sufficient, you don't come forward with a lot of issues or problems, and so you don't really get a lot of the leader's attention, that can be frustrating. But when there's a coaching relationship, the leader is taking time to work with you to help make you better, to help improve your abilities and your skills. And so that should generally increase the morale of the team and of the individuals on the team, because it's showing that investment of time and energy into each employee. I mean, another thing could be that maybe you're as a leader, maybe you're helping somebody on your team be ready for a move in the company, whether it's lateral or whether it's up or down, for
yeah.
example. You might help prepare them for a promotion. Like that's a good thing to have, not a good thing to have, sorry, like a good feeling. You know what I mean?
Right,
You're like, yeah, I
yes.
can help them do this. But it's also not just a good feeling, but it's like a good skill, a good thing to have on your team, that your people are continually getting better and upskilling. You never really, as a leader, you never really want a team where
That's
people are stagnant.
stagnant,
You want
yeah.
people to be constantly getting better. And I think to some leaders, I know when I was like a younger leader, that was a bit intimidating for me. The thought of like, what if my team gets better at doing stuff than me? Then what am I doing as their leader? Like, what do they need me? Am I irrelevant?
You become
but
redundant,
at the same time, am I redundant at this point? But I think at the same time, that doesn't really happen, because instead what happens is management sees how self-sufficient your team is becoming, and they know that's usually thanks to you, or at least partly thanks to you.
Because of the work that you're putting in with the team, right?
Yeah. Now, am I saying that, like, no leader has ever been overlooked in this sort of situation? No. Obviously, there's situations where, unfortunately, a leader puts a lot of time and effort into like empowering, they do coaching, and it gets overlooked, and it's just kind of like, oh, your team is so self-sufficient. What are you doing? Yes, that happens, unfortunately. But I think for the most part, it's clear, because in a manufacturing setting, there's often many, many teams that are doing similar tasks or similar things. So you can compare one team to another. And if I look at one of my teams, if I'm like a manager or an operations manager or a general manager of like a facility, right, or a plant manager, if I have, 8 teams, for example, and if I look at one of my teams and I go, this leader seems a lot less stressed. There's a lot fewer problems during this shift with this team. They're able to solve a lot of their own issues without coming to me. I'm not going to look at that and go, well, that leader must be lazy. I'm probably going to look at that and go, I want more of this. What are they doing differently that the other teams, that the other shifts aren't doing?
Right.
Because how do I get to more of that?
Start bridging that gap between teams, right?
Exactly. And so that's a benefit of coaching as well, is you're helping build the team up, which is going to increase the morale of the team. And then the last part is you free up a bit of time as the leader. Again, you're not going to have 40 hours a week to sit back and relax. But
that's our favorite part about being a manufacturing leader, is being able to sit back and relax.
Right?
The team runs the show, nothing to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, but certainly it should free up a little bit of time in that. A little bit of time to do more, I would say, high value things, because what it means is that when you are empowering your people by coaching them, by improving their skills, there's something that they used to need help with or do improperly, and maybe you had to end up fixing it or redoing it. We hear that a lot, where people go, you know what? I trained Denise on that machine and it's just not going well, so I end up having to redo a lot of her work, or I just take over because I'm too frustrated. But if you are patient enough to work them through that, coach them through that, teach them, then that's time and effort you used to have to spend fixing someone else's mistakes that you don't have to anymore.
Yes.
And so you can spend that time on something else, which is good.
Yeah, with another teammate, or like you said, on higher
coaching
value
on other things. Yeah. So lots of benefits to coaching, for sure.
Great. So for some of our listeners who may be on a team right now who are going like, oh, great, these benefits are, of course, benefiting.
Awesome.
Right? The benefits are benefiting. What would, and they see on their teams like, oh, this doesn't really happen. This isn't really in, my leadership development culture we don't have mentors. We don't, it's not there. We don't have coaching, or I don't feel like I am coached myself. What would you suggest as maybe like a first step for these leaders to start, because we want to encourage. Right? Like leaders to empower, and we want to lead
practical tips.
Exactly. Some practical tips and strategies for so how would you say some first steps to get that on your team?
So if you're a frontline leader listening to the podcast, first of all, thanks. That's awesome. Or even an HR leader or a T&D leader that's listening to this, and you're in an organization that doesn't have a culture of that. It's a challenge, right? I would say it is a bit of an uphill battle, because
maybe overwhelming too to start, right? Where do you start?
Where you start. And I think it's a bit of a challenge, because in one way, what you're kind of asking is like, how do I change the culture of my team from one that doesn't even really think about coaching or just doesn't do it, to one that maybe not only focuses on it, but like encourages it and looks forward to it. So how do you take them from something that was either they thought neutrally about, or maybe even negatively? Like maybe you're in a team where the idea of coaching means, oh, I've done something wrong and I'm being sort of punished and corrected. How do you flip it from that to like a positive thing, like something that people look forward to, something that people realize, oh, this is a good sign.
Right.
My leader coming around and helping me, coaching me, is not a punishment. It's actually them investing time and energy.
Yes.
First of all, if that's where you're at, it's hard for sure. I'm going to completely say that and not pretend that there's some easy silver bullet. There's not. But one of the suggestions I would have is, as the leader, go to your people and ask for their input. Say to them, hey, if I were to invest a bit more time and energy, or some time and energy, in helping you get better at something, right? Helping you overcome a problem. Soft skills, technical skills, how to use a machine, how to work better on the team. What would it be? What would you like help with? There's a good chance you'll be met with crickets. right? Because this
Sure.
is a new thing and it can almost seem like a trap, right? It's kind of like,
Yes.
why are you asking? That's not something we do here. So you probably will be met with crickets because, again, you're trying to change the culture of an entire team, organization, and that could be a long-standing thing. It's been like this for years, right? But
Everyone just comes in, does their own thing, and
goes
clocks in,
home,
clocks out, and goes
But
home.
I think
yeah.
hopefully and eventually someone will suggest something, right? Well,
Right.
life would be a bit easier if we didn't have to, if we understood why all this PPE was required. Oh, okay, that's where we can start, right?
Right.
So then you could decide, once someone suggests something, you can decide whether you need to do more like a group coaching, maybe it's more one-on-one is best, depending on what comes forward. Then start coaching. And you're not going to coach perfectly, right? I mean, we deliver leadership training and I don't always coach perfectly. I'm always still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And of course, coaching looks a little bit different for each employee and kind of for each team. So you're changing up your style a little bit and trying to find what works. But I think ultimately the biggest piece of kind of my takeaway there is ask them, what would you like to be trained on? What would you like coaching on? What would you like to get better at?
Yeah.
And what barriers can I remove as the leader, rather than coming forward being like, hey, I want to coach more. I recognized I haven't, I recognize as your leader, I haven't given you maybe the training that you require or the coaching you require. And then going, so you guys all suck at this and I'm going to help you get better at it. Right. That's
right.
not
Absolutely.
and that's how that can come off. If you identify
Interesting. If you start
everything they
saying,
need to get better
yes.
at.
Okay.
So go to them and be like, what do you want to get better at? What would make your job easier? How can I coach you through that? And then start coaching on that. And then it's a slow process. Again, there's no silver bullet, but
course.
eventually as you make that not just a flavor of the month where, I did coaching for a week and it wasn't well received, so I quit. No, be persistent.
Right.
And be patient. Persistence and patience will pay off, because then you're going to help them coach on that one thing. And then you're going to say, hey, what else do you want to get better at? Especially if that thing works really well. And that person then becomes a bit of an advocate, a bit of a cheerleader, and is like, hey, Ted coached me on that and I thought it was going to be awful. And it wasn't so bad. And actually it worked. And now I am better at that thing. And so, maybe we should take him seriously or take her seriously when she offers to coach us on some stuff, or when she asks, what coaching can we provide? So patience, persistence, and ask them what they want to be coached on. And then I think as you build that trust and you start to slowly change that culture, then you might be able to come forward sometimes with stuff you want to coach them on. Hey, I've noticed that sometimes we struggle when there's a problem to kind of get back on our feet really quickly. I'd love to close that gap, really improve our ability to react in stressful situations or when a machine's down. What do you think we do a little bit of coaching on that? What do you think about a group coaching session where we talk about what holds us back and how we can get better at it?
Yeah. You're more likely to probably get some more positive reactions to that too, where you're just like, oh yes, I am stressed.
For sure.
When things like that happen,
because they'll see you
I would
now.
love some help.
Yeah, because they'll see you now as a source of, as the leader, you're a source of help, of guidance, of advice, rather than a source of sort of punishment when I don't do things well enough or right, or the corrector. Yeah. And then the other piece with that, I think if you could start a culture of coaching, I think a culture of mentoring will start to come from that, because as we start to
you think
create,
one leads to the other.
I think it can. I think it can. Because I think as the team starts to see that coaching and helping one another, like the leader helping us, is an okay thing, and in fact it's a positive thing, then I think they'll be more likely to help each other too. So you're building a sense of psychological safety on the team. You're building a group norm that helping each other is okay, and in fact it's encouraged.
Yes.
And so I think they'll start to do it more as well. They'll more openly seek each other's advice or guidance when they come across issues or problems that they're not able to handle on their own.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of this training.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we just talked a lot about mentoring and coaching, but if you're listening to this and you're going, my organization could use a bit of help with that, it's something that we've tried maybe and it hasn't been successful, or not only is mentoring and coaching something we're struggling with, but we've got other stuff. I mean, we're Unique Training and Development, we're Frontline Leadership Systems. This is what we do. We deliver leadership training all across North America. So if that's something that you're interested in, or you think you want to learn a little bit more about, you can always reach out to us at uniquedevelopment.com, and we would love to have a conversation and help you out.
We're at hello@Unique Development as well, or send us off to send this episode to your HR rep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely too. So until next time, we will leave you with that, and happy leading.
See you later.